Live with CDP Sports Talk, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Anchor FM, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Radio Public, and TuneIn. Now, here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Season 8, Episode 7, Overall 392 of Live with CDP Sports Talk, which is sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, or give them a call at 519-824-0210 and tell them Chris Palme sent you. Or you can email the dealership at info@barrycullen.com. Live with CDP Sports Talk is on weeknights from 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. Eastern on radio station CKRT, Border City Radio in Windsor, 7:30 to 8:30 weeknights. And I'm also on WQEE 99.1 FM in Newnan, Georgia, weeknights from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern as well. I hope everyone's doing well on this Tuesday, April 23rd, 2024, and really a busy sports week this week. We've got the Stanley Cup playoffs going on. We got the NBA playoffs going on. Major League Baseball is in full swing. AAA baseball is going on, and the NFL draft. The 2024 NFL draft, which is going to be this weekend, Thursday to Saturday in Detroit. I will be there for day one of the NFL draft in Detroit on Thursday, and I'm hoping to do some player and coaches interviews, and you'll see some pictures and videos on my social media pages. So, yes, I will be at the NFL Media draft day number one, Thursday in Detroit. I'm really excited about this opportunity as well. And I got a viewer watching right now, Evan Gu, who's a Kitchener Ranger fan. My condolences to you, Evan, and the Kitchener Rangers losing to the London Knights, but a terrific season for the Kitchener Rangers overall. And I'm looking forward to my guest today. This is his third time on Live with CDP Sports Talk. His name is Rod Pedersen. He currently hosts his own sports talk show, the Rod Pedersen Show Daily, through the Rod Pedersen Digital Network, and also on Apple TV, and he's also on WQEE 99.1 FM in Newnan, Georgia, dailies from 12 to 2. And I'm looking forward to talking to Rod today about the National Hockey League playoffs, and the series I think he'll be watching tonight very closely would be the Florida Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I'm going to bring on my guest right now, Rod Pedersen, and make sure you check out his show dailies, Rod Pedersen Show, 12 to 2. Good afternoon, Rod. How you doing?
I'm doing okay, buddy. How you doing?
Good. Another good show this afternoon. I was able to catch the last half an hour.
I appreciate you tuning us in, bud.
Absolutely. And congrats on your latest podcast, the Cats and Bolts podcast as well.
Thank you, man. We're having a lot of fun with it. It's a pretty dream matchup having the Panthers and the Lightning meet in round one to do a podcast on both teams, right?
How is Florida taken to hockey now, and are you going to game 2 tonight?
I'll be there. And, you know, when I came here 3 years ago, I came from Canada, and I thought at that time that nobody knew anything about hockey, that they even knew that hockey was even here. What do we think, Chris? We think of those pictures back in the day of the arena with like 3,000 people at best at Panthers games. And that's unfair. They've been a fantastic team. They're in the playoffs for a fifth straight year. They sell out every game. The Lightning have been doing that for quite some time as a 3-time Stanley Cup winner. They love hockey in Florida. It's just not their number one sport. It's not even close. There, it's not like Canada. Here, it's football, obviously basketball, probably hockey, and then baseball, to be honest. But yeah, sorry to be so long-winded with the answer, but I didn't think anybody even knew about the Panthers, and that couldn't have been more from the truth.
How do you feel after you saw game one, Florida won 3-2? How do you see this series going? I still think it's going to go 7 games.
Well, I had Panthers predicted in 6. My co-host Serena, who does the Cats and Bolts podcast with me, she had Lightning in 7. So I mean, it's that close of a series. I think there was 12 points separated the two in the regular season. Florida and Tampa Bay. I think 6 or 7 games is a long series, but I think Florida is the better hockey team. I really believe that, and I've watched every game they played this year and most of Tampa's games. So I think Florida wins this thing.
Why do you give Florida the edge to the home ice, or do you feel they have better goaltending or their depths?
Well,
overall depths?
Before the series, I've been doing this a while, like yourself. I think we're the same age, actually, Chris. And I like to look at all these categories, and I gave Tampa the edge in goaltending and coaching, a very slight edge in coaching because both coaches are great. And I gave Florida the edge in forwards and defensive core. And those are pretty heavily weighted categories. That's all your skaters. I gave Florida the edge in both. So there's the answer to that.
What's the environment like in that arena, especially when you're there for game one?
It's insane. I mean, nothing I would say compares to Winnipeg. Nothing compares to Winnipeg. Nowhere in the National Hockey League. Vegas is pretty cool too. But I'll say that Florida is up there. I got goosebumps the other night. As a matter of fact, Matthew Tkachuk said it after game one. He had goosebumps. He said the fans here are amazing. And I sold them short when I first got here. I understand now. They're in it. They're legit. It was wild in there.
I was listening to your show this afternoon, and you were mentioning how hockey has grown. The sport of hockey has grown in Florida. From when you first came there was 3,000 people playing hockey, and now there's over 30,000, I believe.
Well, no, that's not just in the last 3 years. That was in 1996 when the Panthers went to the Stanley Cup final, and Doug McLean was the coach. There was 3,000 kids playing hockey here, which is nothing. But 30 years later, almost, there's 30,000 playing. So that's pretty exponential growth.
Think the NHL did it okay with Tampa Bay and the Florida Panthers?
I mean, I think so. I really do. But I mean, there's a lot of people, Chris, that have said to me, you really showed up at a good time. You really started a podcast on the Panthers at a good time, because 10 years ago, nobody would have listened to it. Nobody cared about the team. Nobody went to the games. Nobody was talking about it. And, I should pump the brakes for a second. If you go around and look, and you wouldn't, but I mean, if you're trying to find coverage of a game here, it's hard to find. The Palm Beach Post, the Sun Sentinel, even the Miami Herald don't cover it a whole lot. The Palm Beach Post here has the Panthers behind high school sports. And that's not an indictment of anybody. It's just the way that it is. So just this year, I started really putting focus on Panthers and Lightning coverage. And I've had people coming to me going, I've been waiting 20 years for this type of coverage. And I'm like, well, just the way we do it in Canada. You know what I mean, right? It's nothing special. It's just putting the NHL first. Nobody does that here.
How did you come up with the Cats Bolt podcast, and what has it been like so far doing this show?
Well, Serena and I were driving to Calgary from Regina in the summer. And we kind of, honestly, man, I mean, you said you tuned in my show today. That's the Rod Pedersen Show.
Yes.
We talk about everything there. We talk about the NHL, Canadian Football League, the NFL. It's similar to yours, Blue Jays. And in August, when we were driving to Calgary, it was 8 hours in the vehicle, and she was like, we came up with the idea together that we should start a Panthers and Lightning specific podcast. And then we had fun kicking around the name of it, and here we are. So it was in the summertime, because it was like, I can't talk about the Florida NHL teams on a Canadian TV show every day. Everybody would tune out. Like, we have to start our own separate show. And that's what we did. And it's gone over great, because there's a lot of guys down here, guys that have come on my show, Ed Jovanovski, Bill Lindsay, Doug McLean, Peter Worrell. They're all Canadian guys that don't ever get asked to be interviewed. So I was like, guys, you want to come on this show? They're like, yes, we do. And they've all been on. And it's been great. The fans love them.
How often do you air an episode, and where can people who are watching or listening to our show today follow and subscribe to the Cats and Bolts podcast?
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and it's Cats and Bolts, all one word. Cats and Bolts, all one word. That's where you can find it. We do it. The episodes we do once a week, and they drop every Thursday.
Can you tell us who your next guest might be on your next episode?
Lately, it's just been Serena and I.
Okay.
Because we really get into it on there. It's the only time we argue is when we talk hockey, and we don't agree on anything. And for whatever reason, people seem to like it. I don't know why. So to be honest, man, we had those guests. You know it yourself. You host a show. I brought in all those Panthers guests at the start for legitimacy. And I had people write me after the fact and say, you are making this a legit hockey market. And I'm like, well, again, thank you, but we're just having fun and doing all that we know to do, being professional about it. And just the last few, it's just been Serena and I, because there's been a lot to talk about. It's the Stanley Cup playoffs. It's the number one time of year, man. We wouldn't have enough time to have a guest and have our thoughts. So I'm already planning whenever this playoff run is over, and I hope one of the Panthers or Lightning go all the way. But we're going to do the show right through the summer, and that's when we'll start bringing in more guests.
Do you feel the winner of this series between Florida and Tampa Bay has a good chance of getting out of the Eastern Conference?
Yeah, I do. I mean, if you just look at the odds makers, which I kind of go back and forth on, I shouldn't say they're wrong, but I just remember at Super Bowl, they had San Francisco picked to win by 2 over Kansas City. And I was like, didn't we all realize don't ever bet against Patrick Mahomes? And they were wrong that day. So I started to think maybe they don't always know what they're doing. But, and depending who you watch, at DraftKings, BetMGM, they've got Dallas up there, Florida up there, and Carolina up there. But if Tampa Bay knocks off Florida, why would they not be a legitimate Stanley Cup favorite? They've been there before. They're a very good team. And we saw it last year with Florida upsetting Boston in the biggest upset in NHL history. Anything can happen.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so disappointed. Being a Detroit Red Wing fan, the Red Wings were 1 point. Actually, they weren't 1 point. They were basically an overtime, not getting enough loser points to getting in. And I thought the Red Wings, the last week of the season, were playing really good hockey. But unfortunately, that 7-game losing streak the Wings had, they didn't get any points at all, did them in at the end.
Well, there you go. I mean, the Panthers lost 9 of 11 down the stretch. And I don't expect you or anybody here would have been following, but I was following it very close. And they got away from being themselves, and Paul Maurice had to come out and say, everybody relax. And he had it all under control. And I guess over the last couple of days, he admitted that they had took their foot off the gas. They were trying to get healthy down the stretch. And then they tuned it up in time and won 4 in a row. The game 1 win here on Sunday is 5 in a row. And, I feel bad for Detroit. It kind of like they got Patrick Kane for nothing, because I don't expect he'll be there in the fall. But there was always going to be some good teams miss the playoffs. And Detroit happened to be that. Pittsburgh happened to be that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, Rod, since I got you on here, what is, we all know how good of a coach Paul Maurice is. What is his biggest strengths of the head coach and the job that he's done with the Florida Panthers?
You know what? It's a really good question. And I would say his intelligence. I swear. I mean, I've been around him a little bit, and I've been around a lot of coaches. My dad worked in the NHL for 26 years. I've been in pro sports for 30. Been around a lot of guys, and they all have different attributes. Some guys are better motivators, right? Some are better orators or speakers, maybe. Paul is all those things, but just really, really, really smart.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like the other day in the news conference, he was recalling moments in the game, which every coach can do and players can, but he was just his recall of plays and what happened off those plays it was amazing to me. And I've listened to all these coaches speak over the years. What it would be his intelligence. I think there's some coaches that have had success that you wouldn't say they're intelligence. It's something else. Paul is his intelligence. I'll just leave it there.
Do you feel this Panthers team is even more hungry than they were last year? And that was a learning experience going into this year?
They say they are. So, yeah. I mean, the feeling, Chris, you've lived in Ontario your whole life.
Yes.
From what I understand, the pressure on the Leafs is so enormous that those guys can't get away from it. And I'm sure that's true. Here in Florida, while the popularity is rising, it's nowhere near what it's like in Toronto. And so my point is, I don't think these players are immersed in the fans every day, but I think they do hear it from fans. I heard it a lot. Hey, if we don't win a Stanley Cup, it's a failure. You made it all the way to the final last year, didn't win it this year. If you don't finish it off, it's a failure. That's from the fans. And I would think as a player, you would feel that and more. You got this close to the Stanley Cup, but you couldn't touch it. That's pretty cruel. And you know that you're probably a better team coming back this year. You made some additions like Vladimir Tarasenko at the deadline, Kyle Okposo if they find a way to get him into the lineup. They made tweaks to get better, right? Are they better? Yeah, their points say that they're better. They're pretty. Everybody's hungry here. But you know what? Vegas is hungry to repeat.
Absolutely. And did you ever see players like Sam Reinhart and Zach Hyman being 50 goal scorers in the National Hockey League?
Not Reinhart at all. And I've been watching him since junior in Kootenay and called his games in the Western Hockey League. I just didn't think he was that player. I'm really happy for him that he is. 57 goals. It's a contract year. Does that have anything to do with it? Can't say that it doesn't. And Zach Hyman, I haven't followed that closely other than to say I always really just thought of him as a role player. But let's not forget who he's playing with.
It helps.
By far the best setup man in the National Hockey League. By far. 5 assists in game one off a record. So that's nothing against Zach Hyman, but Sam Reinhart didn't have Connor McDavid dishing him the puck. Let's put it that way.
Rod, I'm going to put you on the spot here with this question. Out of all the Canadian teams left in the playoffs, which Canadian team do you feel has the best chance or the opportunity to bring back the Stanley Cup to Canada, which hasn't happened since '93?
Nobody's going to remember my prediction anyways if I say this. I would say probably Edmonton. 2 years ago, I picked an Edmonton-Toronto Stanley Cup final. Last year, I picked an Edmonton-Toronto Stanley Cup final. Didn't happen. Maybe it does this year. I want the Leafs to beat Boston. I want the Leafs to win the Stanley Cup. Why? Probably because I'm tired of the whining coming out of Toronto. I will say Edmonton, but if it was a Toronto-Edmonton Stanley Cup final, I'd be pretty happy. And to be honest, Winnipeg has it all. Winnipeg has it all. So I'm happy that Vancouver doesn't. You see, Thatcher Demko's hurt now. I'm just 4 legitimate Stanley Cup contenders in Canada. That's pretty awesome.
Absolutely. And before we get to some other questions, Rod, I want to get your quick thoughts on the Buffalo Sabres hiring a former player and their former head coach, Lindy Ruff, and just thoughts on the NHL going to Utah.
Well, I didn't see Lindy Ruff coming. I mean, I thought about it. I didn't think they'd actually do it. But there are, I saw Buffalo come through here 2 Saturdays ago, and they underachieved this year. So there was no doubt there had to be a change made on the bench. They're a very, very talented team. And just talking to people in the league, because I don't know their players. I know them by watching them as World Junior superstars. Owen Power, Devin Levi, Dylan Cousins, Darlene on the back end, Tage Thompson. These are all legit stars, and they couldn't get it done. And what I hear is they're soft. Going gets tough, they fold the tent. I saw that in the games. Is Lindy Ruff going to be able to cure that? They say, Chris, you can't go back, and in life you can never go back. But he is. It's going to go one of 2 ways. It's either going to work tremendously or it's going to fail tremendously. For their sake, I hope that it works. And as far as Utah, I didn't see it coming, obviously. I mean, I spent a lot of time in that Arizona market, gone to a lot of games, friends with a former owner who's, was a good friend of mine. It's sad to see them leave, but it wasn't working. They were never going to get an arena. I would have liked to have seen them go to Houston or Atlanta, not Utah. I mean, but I can't say I've never spent any time in Utah, but it was seemed a little strange to me.
I think it came down to ownership. I think it's the Utah Jazz's owner that's going to own the NHL team, and I guess he has a lot of money behind it. And I guess we'll see what happens. Quebec City wasn't even considered.
No, they won't be. There's a lot of guys here in South Florida that played for the Nordiques or played in Quebec. Let's put it that way. Could have been Montreal too. That said 54% income tax. Not interested. It would not have been a favored place to play, unfortunately. It's just not a good place to set up business, whether you're a hockey team or a bakery.
And also with the Canadian dollar being really bad too, I guess that would be another reason why not to go there. Plus the market too. I think the Canadians would have a say if that team did try to come back into Quebec.
I would assume. There's different ways to go about that. Like with the Dallas thing, I have tried to get to the bottom of, do the Stars want a team in Houston or do they not want a team in Houston? I think it would be the greatest thing ever to have two teams in Texas, but I'm not sure that Dallas feels that way. I thought a Vegas-Arizona rivalry would be great, and that never got out of the starters blocks in 7 seasons. Part of that's because Arizona was never good and never made the playoffs through all that time. Would Montreal want a team? I'd like to think so, but I know you're a big CFL fan. Would the Saskatchewan Roughriders want to put a team in Saskatoon?
No, absolutely not.
No. Well,
No.
I wouldn't, probably not. So when you look at it that way, why would Montreal want a team in Quebec City?
Do you see the NHL in maybe 5 years or 10 years from now going back to Arizona and possibly Atlanta as well, being big markets in the States, or you don't think they're feasible at all?
I don't think they'll ever go back to Phoenix at all. I think the people there feel too burned. They're never going to go back with this current owner, Alex Morello. That's not going to happen. I think the fact that they're saying they will is just lip service to just appease him to go away, similar to what the NFL did with Washington Commanders owner Dan Snyder. I don't think they're going back to Arizona. And that's a shame because there are 700,000 Canadians that live there, but they didn't go to the games anyways. So why would they go back? Just because it's a big city? Who cares? In Atlanta? Did you ask about Atlanta?
Yes.
I would
Which
like
is filled twice.
Yeah. So what? So did the CFL in Ottawa.
Good point. So you do think Atlanta could this time around support an NHL team better?
Look, number one, they want it. There are 2 ownership groups, serious ownership groups in Atlanta. Vernon Krause being one, and a group that includes Anson Carter being another. The NHL on TNT is headquartered in Atlanta, so it's already an NHL market. And they've got an arena waiting there where the Hawks play until they build one north of the city, which is the plan. They've got a plan. They got ownership groups. I want it to happen because this beautiful radio station, which carries both of our shows, WQEE, is there. Ryan O Radio refers to our show, the Rod Pedersen Show, as Atlanta's NHL show. So, yeah, I want it there. People seem shocked when I say that I want the NHL in Atlanta. The expansion rules have changed. Nashville was junk for a decade when they became an expansion team. Every team was until Vegas, till they changed the rules. If they got an expansion team for Atlanta, tweaked the rules to make them competitive out of the gate, they might actually have a chance.
So you see this as an expansion team, or do you think could be another relocation team?
No, they want to expand because they want the expansion money. Like when the Golden Knights got their franchise in 2015 or 16, whenever it was announced, it was $500 million US. Now it's $1 billion. What's going to be by the time the NHL gets serious about Atlanta? $2 billion could realistically happen. And that's what the owners want, is that money. Relocating doesn't make him any money.
There's one another city. I know this is going to sound crazy, but I really think Cleveland could be a candidate for an NHL team in the future with the right ownership, and I think Cleveland could support it. And they seem to do well with their AHL team, the Cleveland Monsters. And get just your thoughts on maybe a second NHL team in Ohio.
Well, let's put it this way: the Blue Jackets aren't helping anything. They've been horrible forever. I wouldn't say no to Cleveland. When you say there's existing hockey fans there, that was the same situation in Seattle, and the Kraken have gone over great. That's a huge junior hockey hub with the Everett Silvertips and Seattle Thunderbirds. They love hockey in the state of Washington, and I would assume they love hockey in the state of Ohio. But you don't hear Cleveland's name come up at all, but you never really started to hear Salt Lake until this year. So who knows?
Guess we'll see. Hey, Rod, just quick thoughts on the rest of the Stanley Cup playoffs so far. And do you see a dark horse team possibly coming out of the first round?
Well, every team in the playoffs right now is a good one as far as I'm concerned. So my upset, the only upset of round one I had picked was the Leafs. And I don't think anybody would call them a dark horse. Would you?
No, I just think based on their history, I think they're the underdogs, but I think they're capable of winning this series, Rod. I actually have the Leafs winning this series in 7 games, and we'll see. But they have to get over what happened in the past and just focus on now. And they obviously did a good job last night. They were down, 2-1 late in the second, and then they tied the game up. And then Matthews came through in the late in the game to win the game for them, 3-2.
Yeah, so I've got that would be my upset, the pick. And then if they won round one, who knows, right? They ran into a tough Florida team last year. I haven't looked at what the matchups would be in round 2 here. But the Leafs, if anybody, are my dark horse. That's my lone upset in round 1.
Do you like this current playoff format, or would you like to go back to the old 1 versus 8 set seed?
I love how I can talk junior hockey with you because you get it. I think people forget, Chris, really smart guys put these formats in place in the first place. Why do you got to go? It's like the Memorial Cup. Everybody bitches every year when the host team wins. But it's like, can you come up with a better format? When they came up with this format in 1973 or whatever it was, nobody's been able to come up with a better one since. And with this NHL format now, they had it by divisions in the 80s. You're an Eastern guy, I'm a Western guy, but it was always Leafs, Oilers, Flames, Canucks, all playing each other every year. And that's what they tried to go back to. But then they're like, well, this isn't fair, because what if the 5th place team in the Smythe has more points than the 3rd place team in the Adams or whatever, Norris, you know what I mean? So they brought in the wild card to appease everybody. And that's what we have. So why is that a problem? I don't get it.
You know what, Rod? I didn't like it at first, but you know what? Now it forces teams to really do have great seasons, because before in the past, in the 70s and 80s, you would get teams that were under 500 sneaking into the playoffs. So in a way, it eliminates teams that don't deserve to be there. It just makes for better hockey. And I guess if you want to win the Stanley Cup, you're going to have to beat great teams at some point.
Yeah, well, let's not forget, I've been the one bringing up the 70s and 80s here a lot, and you just did, but it's a different league since then. There's twice as many, well, not twice as many teams, but there were 21 then. Now there's 32. It is different, but I think if we're going to complain about the format, what's better? And when they talk about the 1 versus 8, I don't really see how that's better. And it's funny because the other night here at Game 1, an NHL scout came up to me and said, what was the Panthers doing beating the Leafs here on Tuesday night? All they had to do was lose that game, and they would have had the Leafs in round 1 instead of Tampa Bay. Lightning going to be way harder to beat than the Leafs. And I said, don't get mad at the Panthers. Boston screwed this all up by losing to Ottawa. That's the whole linchpin in the whole thing. So honestly, dude, when you go back to Tuesday night and Wednesday and even Thursday, it was a wild ending to the regular season with this format. So why would you change that?
Yeah, as a Red Wing fan, I was disappointed because the Capitals ended up winning
Yeah.
2-1 on an empty net goal. But you know what? Like I said, the Red Wings had their opportunities, and I guess that's the way things go. And Philadelphia had to win that game in regulation, anyways.
Well, of course. Sorry, if your team didn't get in, then of course you're going to bitch about the current format. That's obvious. That's obvious.
Yeah.
And if the Wings got in, you'd have loved the format. So are we
I
supposed
agree.
to change the rules based on disgruntled fans?
No,
Based on the way the regular season ended is a perfect example of why nothing should change.
absolutely. Hey, Rod, if you got 2 more minutes, I just wanted to get your quick thoughts on the NFL draft this weekend. I'm actually going to be there for opening night. I got an NFL media pass, and I just wanted to get your quick thoughts on who you see maybe going in the top 3 in this draft, or do you see any surprises?
No, it's going to be all quarterbacks. I don't think Marvin Harrison Jr. If you're drafting that high, you probably need a quarterback. I don't think you're taking a receiver. You know what I mean? So honestly, I'll be watching for JJ McCarthy to see where he goes, if it's top 5 or not. I'm a JJ McCarthy fan.
Same here. Go blue. Go blue.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a Michigan fan, but I like his story. And you know what it is, obviously, if you're a Michigan fan. So Caleb Williams 1, Jaden Daniels 2, and to me, the intrigue starts at 3.
With New England.
Yeah, for sure. And they need a quarterback too, but I feel like JJ McCarthy would be a pretty good fit there. I don't know. Hey, everything's changed with Belichick not running the show. Who knows what their philosophy is going to be, right? There is a lot of intrigue, but I'll be honest, living in America here, the last 2 months have been almost unbearable listening to the hype. Unbearable. It's not anybody's fault. But I'm like, everybody's got a mock draft and mock trades. I'm like, I don't care what you think. Can we just get to the draft, please?
It's changed a lot since we grew up in the 70s and 80s. Used to be in a little hotel room in New York with a little rotary phone, and now look at it.
Well, if you read the book on ESPN, those boys have all the fun. You should read it if you haven't. It's how ESPN convinced Pete Rozelle to take it from that hotel room to where it is now. And it's something else.
Hey, do you feel Nathan Rourke will get a fair shot in the NFL?
Yeah. I think he kind of already has. Yeah, he's there. So he's got a shot. I mean, I would have liked to have seen him. He outperformed Beathard in the preseason last year in Jacksonville, but ended up 3rd on the roster and then got waived twice. And New England claimed him. And to be honest, I would think going into training camp, it should be wide open at that position.
All right. And before we wrap this up, Rod, just get one CFL question for you. I'm an Argo fan and a CFL fan, as you know. Can you just give me a quick thoughts on the Chad Kelly situation with the allegations by a former coach and how the Argos and the CFL have handled this so far?
Well, let's put it this way. I'm a champion of second chances, third and fourth chances. Believe me, I am. So
Same here.
I've been pulling for Chad Kelly since he came into the league. And I'm also not a cancel culture fan. I still believe innocent until proven guilty. So there's all of that from a CFL. So I was a Chad Kelly fan. I've never met him. Now I'm in between on him. I'm not sure. With the CFL, there's nothing they can do. They're not in season, so suspending him would be useless. This has not been heard in the court of law yet. So what could the CFL do? I don't understand what people expect them to do. And then 3, while we're waiting, Chad Kelly should probably disable his Twitter account because he's not helping himself.
No, because I've seen some of his posts, and I'm like, yeah, right now I'd be just focusing on getting ready for training camp, which is only a few weeks away. And Rod, I was going to say the CFL, I'm really looking forward to this season coming up. And I think Saskatchewan is going to be really improved. And another team I think is going to really be improved is the Edmonton Elks. I think having McLeod, Bethel Thompson, Curly Gittins Jr., Javon Leake, Boris Beatty, the guys have won championships with the Argos. I think they're going to help the Oaks, and I think they're going to be fighting for a playoff spot this year in the West.
Well, you're talking about two teams that missed the playoffs last year in Sask and Edmonton. They both expect to be better. I don't know how much better. Calgary's made changes. Winnipeg's always going to be Winnipeg, and I see some people have BC atop the power rankings for the whole entire league. So I'm with you. I'm a CFL fan. I'll be honest, Chris, I don't follow it as closely as I did because I don't work in it day to day. But I'm kind of enjoying just being a fan and reporting on what I see. And the league looks to be in pretty good shape. So I'm with you. Training camp's not too far away now.
Absolutely. And finally, Rod, where can my audience follow you on social media, your website, and can you tell us who are some of your upcoming guests this week on the Rod Pedersen Show?
Well, okay. Thank you, Chris. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and at Rod Pedersen, and the website's rodpedersen.com. I'm on Game Plus TV every day across Canada, national television, which also airs in 31 states. And hey, we've got Canada's foremost NFL expert, Jim Lang, coming up in advance of the draft on Thursday. But if you have time, sometime between noon and 2 on Thursday, I'd love to have you from the draft. Are you available?
I'm hoping to be in Detroit. I'm just not sure what time I'm going to be in there. I'm leaving. I live here in Guelph, and it's about a 3.5, 4-hour drive. But yeah, I'm excited to be in Detroit. What I can do is I can text you or DM you when I get to Detroit to where the location is and let you know.
Okay, well, I'd like to lock that in. Have you on live from the draft. Have a nice look on the background. So yeah, if we had Chris Pomey from the NFL draft, that'd be pretty cool.
Who would have thought, Rod, 4.5 years ago when I started this journey, I would be getting these opportunities with professional sports teams and the National Football League along with the CFL. And I just want to say thank you to all these opportunities and for getting guests like yourself on my show as well, Rod. I try to pattern my show a little bit after yours as well.
Well, you're a testament to not giving up, man. And like me, having a second act in life, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm kind of a late starter, but I found my passion, and this is something I really enjoy, Rod. And I want to say thank you so much for your friendship, your support, and for always coming on my show when I invite you as well. And keep up the great work you do. And I hope you enjoy the Florida Tampa Bay game tonight as well.
Thank you, Val. Appreciate it. My battery's dying, so I got to run. Thanks for having me.
Okay, Rod. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.
You too.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed Season 8, Episode 7 today with Rod Pedersen, the host of his own sports daily show, The Rod Pedersen Show, and is also weekdays from 12 to 2, and it's also on radio station WQEE 99.1 FM in Newnan, Georgia as well. Before we wrap up this show, guys, about a week and a half ago, I did some freelance media work for the Buffalo Bisons. There was a number of Toronto Blue Jays down in Buffalo on rehab assignments. Alex Manoah, Danny Jansen, Jordan Romero, and Eric Swanson. And I was able to talk to Alex Manoah, who's down with the Bisons right now on a rehab. And I'm going to play this clip right now, courtesy of my YouTube channel. And if you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe and like notification to Chris Pomey live with CDP Sports Talk. Here's Alex Manoah talking to the local media in Buffalo after his first rehab start with the Bisons.
Yeah, I think, was attacking pretty well, and I felt like negative degrees out there, but wasn't gonna let that be a factor, just kept licking the fingers and trying to get some of the rosin, just keep attacking.
What did you think, especially the first inning? I mean, that would be a good way to start for you.
Yeah, I thought I was throwing the ball well. I think most of the hits were singles. So, at the end of the day, when I'm in the zone, my stuff's moving well. There's going to be better results than worse. So, felt good about the way I was attacking.
Go ahead.
I feel like your mechanics and delivery this morning.
Great.
I feel great.
Well, velocity obviously is not an issue either. You had 93, 94 with the fast and slider movement. I mean, it seemed like your stuff was there. Just sometimes the hitters were catching up to it a little bit. It seemed
6 singles.
Ross said the other night that he liked the stuff. He liked the depth of the slider. I mean, how are you balancing results with stuff? I mean, because the stuff has clearly been there.
Yeah, I think it's just, continuing to attack, and, I can't control results. I can't control, balls in the infield. I can't control the weather. I can't control any of that. I can't control once the ball leaves my hand. I can make the best pitch possible, and they can hit it 400 feet. What am I supposed to do? So my job out there is to attack, and today I was attacking. And I feel like I was throwing the ball pretty well.
What was your impression of ABS being able to challenge?
It was great when I won the calls.
Is it difficult for you to kind of simulate a major league game in your mind when you're pitching in a place like Dunedin and Buffalo, or is it just the competitor in you? You come out and.
Well, I think last week in Dunedin, they might have caught me off guard a little bit. The game's a little bit different down there, but wasn't going to let that happen. This week, and I felt like I was controlling everything that I can control. I was attacking. There weren't many 3-ball counts, and when there was, I still attacked and got right back in there. So I think that's the biggest thing, is not giving up on counts and understanding that my stuff is very good. And even 3-1 or whatever it is, that they can know what's coming. I just need to attack and execute.
What was it like having Danny back there?
It was great. Me and him work well together, and didn't really have to shake off much, and unless he wanted me to shake off. But for the most part, it's great to throw to him.
How strange was this that you never threw in AAA here, but you threw in the big leagues here, and now you're back here in rehab?
Yeah, that was funny. We were actually talking about that earlier because I saw a picture of myself on the scoreboard, and I was like, that's got to be AI. And they were like, no, you played here. And I was like, no, we played here when the big league club was here. And when I was in AAA, we were in training. So it was a good AI picture.
What are some of the challenges on the mental side of the game when you're rehabbing to start the season?
Yeah, I think, you're trying to check boxes on how your body feels, and you don't try and worry about the results, and I think once you start checking the boxes that your body feels great, you go out there and attack, so I felt like I was able to get into a pretty good rhythm. That third inning, Yepis had a great at-bat. He ended up winning it, but I got right back in there right after that and continued to attack, and I think it was second, third, with no outs, and was able to limit it to only one run. So that's something that I pride myself on, is limiting damage, and I feel like I was able to do that today and get back to being in a really good rhythm and attacking and feeling good.
What was that 11 pitch at bat like? I mean, yeah, he gets the hit, so technically he wins it, but that's a lot of battle on your part too in that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, once again, made my pitch and ground ball up the middle. So any other day the defense could have been there. Any other day the defense is not there. He won it this time, and at the end of the day, for me, that's not what matters. What matters is he's battling, and I didn't shy away from anything. I continued to attack, and like I said, he won it. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Just got to continue to attack.
What was your biggest takeaway from today?
What was that?
What's your biggest takeaway from today's outing?
Yeah, I think no hit by pitches, and that one walk at the end, but for the most part, it was in the zone. And like I said earlier, when there were a couple of 3-ball counts, I was able to get right back in there and kind of make those pitch-to-pitch adjustments, which is going to be huge.
Have you had any feedback yet that the stuff is what they're primarily concerned with, that the results are kind of incidental, or have you gotten some feedback that results also need to be there before you progress?
Feedback from who?
From anyone up top. As far as what they're looking for out of you.
I'm not sure. I think they're trying to look for me being healthy, and they know that the stuff is there, and those results will come. And I feel like I threw the ball well today, so just got to continue to build off that.
Alec, thoughts on the pitch clock, how it's changed pitching the last couple of years, and thoughts on facing some of these AAA hitters today?
The pitch clock has definitely changed the game a little bit. As athletes, you're kind of taught to slow the game down. The game can get really fast, especially at the big league level, and we're taught to slow the game down, and now we're kind of taught to slow it down, but within 15 or 18 seconds. So we're elite athletes, and these are the best baseball players in the world, and the same way we were able to create routines to slow ourselves down and lock ourselves in mentally, it's the same way we'll figure out how to do it, within 15 seconds or 18 seconds or whatever the case may be. So, I know that it's definitely something that's changed the game a little bit, and I know the fans love it. So, us as athletes, we just got to continue to make those adjustments, and that's the game of baseball. It's making adjustments, pitch to pitch, at bat to at bat, and from one outing to the next. Facing some of these guys, it was very fun. That kid Wood over there, he's gonna be a great player. Kieboom hit one really good off me up the middle on a good slider. I played with him in the Under Armour All-American game a while back. So, Yepes, he's a great hitter as well. They got some great guys over there, so it was fun to be able to compete against them.
Thanks, Alex.
You had a couple of big strikeouts and you're skipping off the mound. Just from a confidence standpoint, how are you feeling when you're out there right now?
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing is when you're rehabbing, you kind of forget that you're competing. So for me, I've been able to feel, really well. So today was about going out there and competing, checking that box. And, I knew the conditions weren't well and all that stuff. And I actually, focused on embracing that, and understanding that, if it rains or it's cold, it's like that for everybody. So for me, it's just embracing, some of that adversity and going out there and having fun, man. It's a kid's game, and I've been playing this game since I was 3 years old. You kind of look back to why you started playing is because you love it, and as you start to check those boxes rehabbing, one of those boxes is go out there, have fun, compete, and I know it might be a AAA game or whatever the case may be, but I don't really care. I'm just out there having fun.
You mentioned health. Are you at the point where you can not think about the shoulder anymore when you're on the mound?
Yeah, definitely. I think, now it's just continuing to attack and continue to keep that arm feeling good, doing everything I can after starts, between starts to continue to make it stronger and stronger. And, just continue out there and attack.
Thanks so much.
All right,
Thank you so much.
Alex.
Thank you. All right, guys, that was Alex Manoah, Toronto Blue Jays starting pitcher, who's down in Buffalo right now with a rehab for the Buffalo Bisons. And speaking of the Buffalo Bisons, they're back home tonight at Saline Field, 6:05 first pitch against the Iowa Cubs. If you've never been to a game at Saline Field in downtown Buffalo, highly recommend it. It's very affordable. They do a great in-game presentation, and the Buffalo Bisons are the top farm team of the Toronto Blue Jays. And obviously tonight playing the Iowa Cubs, the top farm team of the Chicago Cubs. You get to see future Major League players down in AAA baseball, or you get to see Major League Baseball players are down in AAA for rehab assignments as well. So it was great being able to talk to Alex Manoah, Danny Jansen, Jordan Romero, who just got his 100th save as a Canadian-born player. Congratulations to Jordan Romero, and Eric Swanson, who's back up with the Jays as well. So Bisons take on the Cubs, 6-game series at Saline Field this week, 6:05 tonight. You can get tickets at bisons.com. And speaking of Buffalo sports, the Buffalo Bandits defeated Vegas on Saturday night, and the Georgia Swarm were upset at home to Rochester. So the Buffalo Bandits are the number 4 seed in the National Lacrosse League playoffs, which start this weekend. So it's going to be the Georgia Swarm, the number 5 seed, taking on the Buffalo Bandits. And in the quarterfinals of the National Lacrosse League, it's a 1-game winner take all. So it was so important for the Bandits to get that home game at the KeyBank Center. And it's going to be Georgia Buffalo this Saturday night, April 27th, 7 o'clock. At the KeyBank Center. You can get tickets at bandits.com or listen to the game on 1520 The Bet in Buffalo with John Gerkler and Steve Bermel, or you can watch it on CW23 with John and Steve. And the game will also be on ESPN Plus as well. So really looking forward to the Bandits Georgia game this week. I will not be there at the KeyBank Center as media, as I'm going to be in Detroit covering part of the NFL draft. I'll be leaving Thursday morning to the Motor City, and I want to say thank you to the National Football League's Media Communications department for giving me a pass to cover this draft. So make sure, guys, you check out my social media pages for pictures, videos, and some interviews, and hopefully I'll get to talk to some of the top draft picks on Thursday night as well. And I will be doing a game night, or not a game night, but a draft night opening draft night story as well on WordPress.com. So again, going to be a busy weekend for me, and looking forward to the NFL draft Thursday, Friday, Saturday in Detroit. I will be there for day one and doing a little bit of coverage for CKRT Border City Radio in Windsor. And I also might be on another person's radio show as well, coming from Detroit. By the way, guys, I want to make an announcement. My next live with CDP Sports Talk, sponsored by BarryCullen.com, is going to be Tuesday, April 30th at 2 p.m. Eastern with my special guest, Marissa Tigney. She is a podcast host of her own show called Heard That with Marissa Tigney. She is from Lansing, Michigan. She's a huge sports fan like I am. She started her podcast in August of 2020, just after I did. She's a huge Michigan Wolverines fan, Detroit Lions fan, Detroit sports fan. So we're going to talk to Marissa about how she started up her podcast show in August of 2020 and some of her favorite interviews and just the status of professional sports in Detroit as well. So make sure you tune into season 8, episode 8, live with CDP Sports Talk, Tuesday, April 30th at 2 p.m. Eastern with Marissa Tigney. Again, the host of her own podcast show called Heard That with Marissa as well. Live with CDP Sports Talk is also available now on CKRT Border City Radio in Windsor, weeknights from 7:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Our radio station's website is ckrtbordercityradio.com. If you're in the Cambridge, Kitchener-Waterloo Gulf area and you're looking for your forever friend, check out the Cambridge and District Humane Society at 1650 Dunbar Road in Cambridge. You can call them at 519-623-7722, or you can visit their website at cambridgehumanesociety.org. And right now they're doing a monthly raffle 50-50, and you can buy tickets off of their website, cambridgehumanesociety.org. And if you want to check out some of their cats, dogs, rabbits, pets that are available there, the website's your best bet. And a shout out to Clifford. If you guys check out Clifford on their website, he's a 1-year-old dog. He's a 100-pound dog, but he's such a great dog, and I'm really hoping Clifford gets adopted as well. And I do volunteer work there as well. So if anybody watching or listening to this show that's in the Cambridge area is looking to do some volunteer work, give them a call again at 519-623-7722, or drop by the shelter at 1650 Dunbar Road in Cambridge. Again, cambridgehumanesociety.org. Also, guys, Live with CDP Sports Talk is on weeknights from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern on radio station WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key, the home of Southern sports and talk. And make sure you check out Monday to Friday from 12 to 2, the Rod Pedersen Show on WQEE 99.1 FM. And our radio station's website is WQEE FM Radio 12345.com. Live with CDP Sports Talk is available live streamed on these platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter /X, Twitch, LinkedIn, and now available on Instagram. Just follow me there at Chris Pame on Instagram. Also, you can check out my website on beacons.ai, Chris D. Pame, all my social media sites, previous radio shows. All my digital content is on beacons.ai/Chris D. Pame. Live with CDP Sports Talk, again, is sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Gulf Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, or give them a call at 519-824-0210, or you can email them at info@barrycullen.com. And speaking of Barry Cullen Chevrolet right now, it is truck months down at Barry Cullen Chevrolet. A 2024 Silverado 1500 RST, 0% financing for up to 60 months. More details at barrycullen.com or pop by the dealership and in the Gulf Auto Mall. Also, you can follow this content creator on TikTok at Live with CDP. Just make sure you hit the follow notification on TikTok to Live with CDP. All my player, coaches, and all my promos are on TikTok. And I want to say thank you to my 2,100 plus followers on TikTok, and it's been a great tool for my radio and media work. So TikTok at Live with CDP. Please consider following me. StreamYard is the official live stream provider of Live with CDP Sports Talk. If you're into webinars or podcasting such as yours truly, check out StreamYard.com. They have basic plans, semi-pro plans, professional plans, and they also have business plans for businesses. So for businesses that are looking to do webinars or live streaming for their companies, check out StreamYard.com and contact the sales department. And I've been a customer of StreamYard for 3.5 years, and it's really helped add professionalism to my podcast radio show. Again, StreamYard. Live with CDP Sports Talk, the audio version is on these platforms: iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify for podcasters, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Spotify, Castbox, LinkedIn, Pandora, and Tuned In. You can also email or text Live with CDP Sports Talk at cpame19@gmail.com, or you can text the show at 519-820-7188. Any comments, questions, suggestions, feedback, good or bad, would be greatly appreciated as well. And again, I want to say thank you to my guest, Rod Pedersen from the Rod Pedersen Show, for coming on here today to talk about the Stanley Cup playoffs, the Florida Panthers, Lindy Ruff being rehired by the Buffalo Sabres as their head coach, the NHL moving Phoenix to Utah, and also talking a little CFL with Rod today as well. And again, check out the Rod Pedersen Show on all social media platforms, and he's on weekdays 12 to 2 on WQEE 99.1 FM, and the Rod Pedersen Show is on YouTube as well, and his website is rodpedersen.com as well. And that's about it, guys. We got some NHL Stanley Cup playoffs tonight. Washington Rangers game 2. The Rangers are up 1-0. Tampa Bay, Florida. Florida's up 1-0 in that series. Colorado at Winnipeg. The first game, Winnipeg won 7-5. Should be a hell of a game in game 2 in Winnipeg. That game is on tonight. And then the fourth game, the late game tonight, is Nashville at Vancouver. The Canucks are up 1-0 in that series. And last night's Stanley Cup playoff actions, for those who might have missed it, the Leafs finally beat the Bruins for the first time this season in an important game 2. Austin Matthews scored the winning goal in the third period. The Leafs win 3-2, so the Leafs even up that series 1-1, with the next 2 games going at the Scotiabank Center in Toronto. And the other games, Carolina stunned the Islanders 5-3. They were down, I think, 2 goals in that game, and they scored 2 goals in 9 seconds. So the Hurricanes are now up 2-0 on the Islanders. Vegas beat Dallas 4-3 last night, and the Edmonton Oilers outscored the Kings 7-4 to go up 2-0 in that series as well. And as for the Detroit Tigers, the Tigers improved to 13-10 last night with an impressive 7-1 win over the Tampa Bay Rays. Tarek Skudrow was outstanding again, and if he can stay healthy this year for the Detroit Tigers, I think Skudrow could be a Cy Young candidate, and I think he could win 16 to 19 games for the Tigers this year as well. So the Tigers are on the road against Tampa Bay, and for the people here in Ontario, the Blue Jays are playing really good baseball. Again, they won again last night at Kansas City, so the Jays are finishing up a road series against the Kansas City Royals tonight. I believe first pitch is 8:05 as well. That's about it, guys. Make sure you check out my social media pages on Thursday and Friday for some pictures, videos, and some interviews from the NFL draft in Detroit. I will be there opening night, day 1 from Detroit, and I'm really excited for this opportunity as well. And that's about it, guys. Again, thank you to Rod Pedersen for coming on our show today. Thank you to everyone watching this live streamed and on audio platforms. And again, thank you to our sponsor, Barry Cullen Chevrolet, and to radio stations WQEE 99.1 FM and CKRT Border City Radio in Windsor. I hope everybody has a great afternoon, rest of the week, and we'll see you back here next Tuesday at 2 o'clock with my guest, Marissa Tigney, the host of her own podcast show called Heard. That was Marissa Tigney, and looking forward to speaking to Marissa about her show and talking to her about professional sports and what's going to happen with the Detroit Lions in the draft and going forward with the Tigers this season as well. That's it. We'll see you guys next Tuesday for another edition of Live with CDP Sports Talk. Have a great afternoon, great weekend, everyone, and we'll talk to you on social media from Detroit on Thursday night.